Welcome, everyone. My name is Blake, and I will be your moderator. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Meredith Gantos. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to go over some housekeeping. If you have a question, please type it in the box labeled "Have a question" on the right side of your screen. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. Welcome, and thank you for being with us. I will pass it over to you now.
Hello, thank you, and welcome. I appreciate everybody listening in. My name is Meredith Gantos, and I'm going to be talking about a couple digitally driven workflows and some of the tech that goes into that. I have so much content to share, but I want to be really mindful that it's late on a Tuesday afternoon. So I'm going to try and get through things at a pace that makes sense. And if you have follow-up questions or anything like that, I will leave my contact information at the end, and I'm always happy to answer more for people. Tonight's agenda, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of share a little bit about my story, go through some of those cases, and then discuss some of the takeaway and answer some questions. So what are we here to accomplish? First and foremost, to talk about the seamless interplay between both Planmeca and Desktop Health and how they work together to streamline workflows. I want to demonstrate a couple workflows that I really love and utilize in our office that I believe provide a better patient experience, but also help improve our patient outcomes. And then lastly, I want to talk about how to get started. How do you implement that? How do you identify what tech, what workflows work best for you in your office to produce greater efficiency and ultimately profitability for your practice? So my why do I love talking about this, sharing about this? Why am I here tonight? And for me, that's because digital dentistry has been completely transformative for my practice. So with these digital workflows, it's allowed me to be more efficient, to serve more patients, produce more quality dentistry, find more solutions for people. It's introduced greater precision and case acceptance in all that I do. It also really custom tailors a unique and comfortable experience for patients. They really appreciate the technology. And it's also allows us better record keeping and documentation. And last but not least, digital dentistry for me has opened up this world of fun and just makes, the day-to-day grind a little bit more exciting. And so that is really what drives me and why I'm excited to share this with you. So just to set the record straight, when I was in dental school, I had film x-rays. We only switched to digital right at the end. I set denture teeth. I never touched a digital scanner. And I did wax up. So we did everything the analog way. I didn't even know what emax or zirconia were in dental school. So this stuff, I share that because the technology is really created for people that don't know how to use it, and they streamline it and they make it really easy to adopt. So I think that's really important to share with people. My journey into all things digital really started in 2020. So like, most dentists, when we came back from lockdown and from COVID, we were just inundated and swamped. And we really had to look at things and say, how do we serve our patients more efficiently and be able to produce the quality dentistry that we love producing, but in a way where we can, serve our patients and handle the influx. So for us, that involved acquiring our first scanner. So in October of 2020, I bought the Emerald scanner and a mill along with that. And then we just took off and we were growing like gangbusters. And it was such a success in our office. A couple months later, we actually bought a second scanner. And once we kind of mastered scanning and milling, the next logical step was, well, hey, let's get into printing. So in summer of 2021, I purchased my first printer. And like I think probably a lot of people who purchased their first printer, it stayed in a box for months and months. And I kept saying, oh, I'll get around to figuring that out and we'll get running with it. And it took me a while to really unbox it. And when I did, I didn't do anything real exciting with it. But all of that really changed for me when I integrated Planmeca's PlanCAD Premium, which is a design software. So a year later, after buying my scanners, we bought PlaidCAD Premium, which is Planmeca's version of exocad. So it's a really sophisticated lab grade software. And once we purchased that, I started taking classes at the Mod Institute, which I'll talk a little bit about. And that's where I really started learning, how do I harness the power of all this technology, and how do I marry it together and create and innovate. So after taking Mod and having this really powerful design software, then in the beginning of this year, in 2022, we started racking up printers. And I'll speak a little bit as to why we sort of made the shift to desktop health printers, and how we've sort of evolved to really, really love our Einstein, and why we've started racking those up. So, this stuff is new to me, and you can see that throughout the presentation. It's so user-friendly that it doesn't take really long, and it doesn't take, a crazy ton of instruction to be able to really utilize this stuff and get the ball rolling. So this is Dr. Wally Renee, who runs the Mod Institute. I have to give him a shout out because he's been super instrumental in teaching me all of the workflows that I'm going to share with you tonight. And Mod has been a really powerful part of my journey. So him, along with Dr. Michael DeFee, are the creators and the founders of the Mod Institute in Charleston, where you can learn all of these digital workflows. So the Emerald S scanner from Planmeca, when we first introduced scanning into our office, we wanted to make sure that it was something that I could get buy-in for the team. So I knew it needed to be lightweight, it needed to be ergonomic, it needed to be fast. Nothing irritates me more than spending money on something and having it sit in a corner. So I knew if I got a scanner that I wanted it to be something that would be easy to use and comfortable, which is what I really loved about the Emerald S, along with, of course, speed and accuracy. It's really user-friendly, and there's not a ton of subscription fees or buying tips constantly. So those were some of the highlights for me on choosing that scanner. With PlaidCAD Premium, what's brilliant about this design software is it's an open system where you can design and create and innovate literally anything that you want to do. It has all of the tools to be able to, quite frankly, print or mill or create anything and everything. So things from bite splints to indirect restorations, snap-on smiles, mock-ups, removable appliances, dentures, shell provisionals, pre-surgical prosthetics. Anything your little heart can desire, this software can create, which is super powerful. And the fact that it's open and allows you to bring in STLs and DICOMs and face scans from any system. But what's beautiful about having it under the Planmeca cloud is it already pulls in their data and integrates all of their data, and it has the presets for their mills and things like that. So this is what sort of the setup screen looks like. So if you look over to the left, you can see you can choose anything and everything to create in here. So it's really special, it's really powerful, and it can certainly be a bit of a rabbit hole, because once you get started with it, you just want to keep learning more and more and creating more with it. So desktop health, the first printer I got was actually before the Einstein had been developed. And then through the course of my printing, it's really led me to the desktop health family, and in particular to this printer, which I have now 2 of, because I just love it and utilize it that much. 95% of all of the printing in my office happens on the Einstein printer. Why I love this printer in particular, there's a couple various reasons. One is the speed. So for same-day dentistry, it's brilliant. But not only that, I don't want to create more homework for my team or myself. So all of the designing that we do, all of the lab work that we do, it's done during the day, during patient care. We're not staying after work. We're not carving out special time. It's so quick that it can be done in between patients. So that to me was really important. The NanoFit 385 is a really special feature of this printer as well. It provides greater clarity and precision. It creates really beautiful looking prints, especially compared to other competitors. It also has DLP technology, which some of the competitors have as well. But what makes Desktop Health super special is that it uses industrial grade chips. So the projector in it is unlike other printers. It's really, really high quality, which again leads to increased accuracy and increased fit. It's user friendly, so it has special features in the nesting software to be able to auto nest different things. So you can hit a button and it can line up all your models, which is really time saving. It also, to me, has a bit of a smaller footprint compared to some of the other ecosystems that we've used. So it's easier to find space for it and a place to put it. But the other really, really exciting thing about Desktop Health is their profile of resin. So they have over 60 validated materials, but they have the most cutting edge resins for any application that you'd want to use them. So they're certainly really leading the way on the resin technology and really pushing the envelope on what can be done. So that NanoFit 385, that creates a clearer, more precise looking print. So you can see versus other printers that would be at like a 405 nanometer, that creates more of that orangey tint, that yellow tint versus the Einstein where the prints are really beautiful and really clear looking. So this is a comparison, same surgical guide printed on 2 different printers in our office that just really emphasizes that point of how beautiful those prints are and how they stay long lasting. So Flexcera Smile and Base, this to me is one of the most exciting things about printing is this material. And this was what first got me started into the Desktop Health family of printers, was because I wanted to print this material. It is absolutely beautiful. It has a really beautiful translucency and luster to it that makes it look really lifelike and very porcelain-like. It's also super strong. It's a nano ceramic. It's a hybrid material that is a really strong material. It is moisture resistant, but it's FDA approved for permanent restorations. It has a proprietary long chain chemistry in it that contributes to that fracture resistance and that strength, but it can be used not only for temporaries, but for permanent restorations, dentures and partials, crowns and onlays as well. And it's really versatile. So it comes in a full range of different pinks and different tooth colors. But truly you can stock a couple and then custom stain them however you want, which is really convenient as well. And then if you're new to printing, you'll know, or you may not know, that the other components that you need are something to wash your prints and then something to cure the prints. So the AutoFlash, which is the curing unit in the Desktop Health family of printers, is also really special. It's super fast and it's super powerful, which is important because, again, you know, as exciting, as fun as this stuff is, it's still medical devices, right? And we're still rendering care. And this is, you know, these are materials that are going to go into somebody's body. So it's really important that manufacturers' instructions are followed and that we're not leaching resin and we're not being irresponsible on the quest to enjoy and have fun in what we're doing. So this curing unit is really powerful and incredible in that way. So just to review the cases, the first case I want to talk about is interim partial dentures. So you can create final partial dentures as well using both the pink and the white, but one of the most fun things to do that will turn any patient into a raving fan is somebody that walks in without a tooth and having them leave with an interim. Interims can be monolithic, printed in one material and then custom stained. And again, you can just stock bleach color as is pictured, or you can do split file and do pink and white as well. And they can be provided same day, and they can even be provided same appointment. So I'll get into that workflow in a couple slides here. So what does that workflow look like? So first we do full arch scanning with the Emerald S, which typically takes about under a minute per arch. So that's an assistant-driven procedure. And then this is designed in Plaid CAD Premium. These designs are really simple. I've taken my assistants with me to mod, and so this is an assistant-driven procedure in my office. Our assistants know how to design these, but certainly doctor can do these as well. And then they're printed in Flexcera Smile Ultra, which is the tooth version of the Flexcera material. So how that looks in PlaidCAD Premium, we can select the partial denture option if we want to do a pink and white and split file, or we can also design that in the anatomic Pontic function. And then this is what that design process looks like. So essentially we get a full arch scan. In this case, the patient still has the tooth. So what I'm doing right now is I'm virtually extracting the tooth and I'm carbon copying it. So I'm making a clone of that tooth before I extract it. I'm creating a wax up model now to block out some of the undercuts. So my flipper will of course go on and off and not get caught in the undercuts. Once I have my wax up model, I can go in and I can remove some of that because I do want my partial to engage in some of those undercuts for added retention. So right now I'm removing some of the wax in some of those undercuts for a nicer, tighter fit and for a more comfortable fit for the patient as well and greater retention. After that's done and I've done my virtual extraction, I can take that tooth that I copied and I can use that as my waxed up tooth. So now that tooth that I've copied has become my waxed up tooth. With a couple clicks of a button, I can adapt that to the interproximal contacts, to the occlusal contacts, and to the gingival contour. At this part, what I'm doing is I'm going to start drawing the gingival portion of the flipper. So I'm going through, I'm engaging how I want it to touch my teeth, what undercuts I want it to engage in. You can design this however you want. If you don't want to engage those teeth as much as I'm showing here, you don't have to. You can certainly make it more of a rotational path type of partial. I like engaging a little bit of the teeth. And then once I have that gingival design, I'm evaluating it and I can edit it however I like. So when I throw my tooth on there in relation to my gingiva, I can see my tooth looks a little short. So I'm going to remove some of that. And keep in mind that when this prints, it's a resin material. So if I put this in the patient's mouth and I don't like that excess little bar I have over the canine, I can drill that right off, right? So I prefer having a little bit extra because I can always remove. And here I am just kind of smoothing it and checking everything out. And in total, this design takes less than 5 minutes to do. And now I've designed a flipper that I can then print and deliver to the patient as soon as that tooth is removed. So that same day workflow, that's so powerful because the patient walks in and they need to have a tooth extracted or they're missing a tooth, and your assistant can scan and design and start printing this thing before your treatment coordinator has even finished presenting the treatment plan. So we start with the full arch scans, the codes are entered, the treatment plan coordinator presents that, we get consent, the tooth comes out, and by the time the tooth comes out and we're going through those post-op instructions, we can deliver the flipper and custom stain it as needed for the patient. So it's a really powerful way to turn a really anxious patient into a raving fan. The other thing you could always do too is you can do an adhesion bridge or a Maryland bridge and 3D print that if you're bone grafting and don't want to put pressure on the new bone graft. So this is that procedure, again, just sped up a little bit faster, but this shows if the patient is already missing the tooth in this scenario. If I don't have a tooth to copy, I can take the adjacent tooth or the contralateral tooth, that central, and I mirrored it. So this is an exact mirrored tooth of the neighboring tooth. And same thing, you can see how quick and easy this workflow is, and it can produce a really beautiful result for a patient that can be a great long-lasting solution or interim solution. So once that partial is designed, this is what it looks like when it's nested in the nesting software. So this is showing the supports that you can customize. One of the incredible features of the Einstein and of the Desktop Health family printers is something called Easy Supports that I will show in a couple slides as well. This is what it looks like when it's on the build plate. So it's upside down, and this is not the bleach shade, this is the A2 shade, but you can see how it looks, and it's wet. And then we wash it in the alcohol bath and cure it. And that's where it looks on the right-hand side. We also clean them. You can use chlorhexidine as safe or alcohol to clean them. And we bag them up when we put a little sticker for freshness. This is what the bleach shade looks like when it comes off of the printer. This one's cured. It has less of a wet look to it. And with all of those supports, what's beautiful is they literally peel off like this. So as opposed to other printers where you have to use special cutting tools and burrs, these supports literally just peel right off of the print, which is super exciting. The other special thing about this material is based off how you design it and how thick or thin it is, it changes the physical properties of it. So you can see in the video on the left, the clasps are a little bit thicker, it's a little bit shorter, it flexes, but it still has a little bit more rigidity to it, versus the video on the right, where this material has memory. So you can flex it and it'll bounce right back. So that allows us to, again, really get creative in the design and what you want these to look like. So this is the same tooth, same patient, just a couple different designed partials to show that. When it comes to custom staining, there's lots of different things you can use. Again, it's a resin ceramic material. So you're going to choose anything that is safe and FDA approved for resin. So I really like the Taub elixirs for the pink. And I also really like Optiglaze, which you can also use for pink and tooth colored as well. So the Optiglaze color, it's a really easy system to use. What I like about it is it's very customizable. So there's a wide range of colors that you paint on. You can layer it if you want things to be darker or lighter, but until you cure it with the Cure Light, you can completely wipe it off, which is awesome if you're someone like me that works quick and kind of slab stuff on there. Sometimes I need to lighten it and remove a little bit. Or in this case, I started with an initial gingival color. I hated it. I wiped it right off. And so then it's easy to customize that and stain that a little bit differently and paint it on there. Every time you cure it, you can keep building on it, which makes it, again, really customizable, and you can really personalize these for your patients. After everything is stained the way that you like it, you can lock that color on there so it'll stay long term by putting a coat of the uncured Flexcera. So that's what I'm showing here. I'm taking the uncured resin, I'm putting that on there, I'm curing it, and then that goes back in the auto flash to make sure that that gets cured and will stay on. So the second case I'm going to talk about is wax up models. So these are 3D printed models that you can use for case acceptance, communicating things between yourself and the patient or the lab. You can create stents off of them, whether it be reduction or stents to help guide the treatment. You can dial in the aesthetics and the occlusion and PlanCAD Premium. So PlanCAD Premium actually has a virtual articulator, and it's completely customizable. So you can mount the case and go through all of your movements to make sure that everything is really, really dialed in. So there's minimal to no adjusting in the mouth. You can also integrate 2D photos and or 3D face scans as well. So that workflow, again, starts with full arch scans, starts with a design in PlanCAD Premium that can be assistant-driven or doctor-driven. And then from there, you can print the model with the wax up, or you can take just the wax up itself and print that out in the Flexcera material and put that in the patient's mouth to show them what that would look like. So Desktop Health has two different model resins, Model X and Model Z. Model X is for high precision and detail. Model Z is for thermoplastic, making retainers and Essex. It's super, super speedy. So this is our setup screen in PlanCAD Premium. We're going to select mock-up because we're doing a wax up here. So again, we start with our scans and we're going to enter the Smile Creator mode. So in Smile Creator, we're taking 2D and the 2D pictures with the STL file. We're merging them together, and then we're able to toggle back and forth what our wax up looks like in both in the face and out of the face. We're setting our proportions, and we're doing a rough placement of where we want our teeth. In this case, we weren't touching tooth number 9, so this is showing the wax up on 7, 8, and 10. There you can see I'm doing some virtual crown lengthening. I'm also shortening some of the tooth structure because I don't want to add to that incisal edge if I'm trying to add tooth number 9. I can also really easily take tooth number 9 and mirror that tooth and overlay that on tooth number 8, but that's not as exciting to watch. So I'm fiddling around a little bit more, but this can be such a quick, easy process. There's so many tools to be able to move teeth simultaneously, scale them, rotate them all together, carbon copy adjacent teeth. There's rulers you can set up and measuring tools. So again, it makes it as easy as can be because we're not looking to add on more work. We're looking to streamline. We're looking to be efficient, but increase our care, increase the level of efficiency and accuracy that we can provide for our patients. So going through that process, I can use this information to make a reduction guide if I'm going to do that crown lengthening in there. I can use it to make a stent if I'm going to be doing this by hand, or if I'm going to be doing this any other way that I want. And this is showing I'm creating that wax up model here. And so it's going to take all of that information and make it watertight. And that will result in my wax up model so that I can 3D print and use for my treatment and for explaining things to the patient. So when it comes to models, you can print 9 models in 12 minutes. So Einstein has a really large bill plate, which is one of the other reasons I love it. You can accomplish a lot on it. You can print 66 models with 1 bottle. So your cost per model is $1.65. And this is what that Model X material looks like with the wax up for a case that I did pretty recently. You can also create a wax up that's completely additive. And what's really cool about doing something that's completely additive is that's, again, something where instead of printing that in the model resin, I can print this out in the Flexera bleach or the tooth colored resin. And that's something that I can actually show the patient in the chair what these teeth would look like. So I find this is really helpful in explaining and having conversations with patients about number of units. So in explaining, what it means to bulk out the buccal quarters and why sometimes we want to do more units and extend our treatment into the premolar region or even sometimes the molar region. So this really helps in having those conversations about number of units. So this would be a completely additive wax up that I can then take and show the patient, or I can then move on and make that into a wax up model as well. So this is just kind of what that looks like when it comes off the printer with those easy peel supports. I can literally pop those off and that will seat in the patient's mouth. And again, you can also take 3D face scans into the software as well and actually design in the face as well. So Planmeca has the Viso, which is a CBCT machine that also has the face scanner built into it. So it's just endless potential here, right? You can create your wax up models, your stents for temporaries, direct resins. You can make your reduction guides, the mock-ups that you can print and just pop right into the patient's mouth. You can do that just to illustrate things, or you can even take those and bond them on for the patient to wear home and talk to their significant other and kind of take it for a test drive and see what they think of the incisal length and position and shape and number of units. You can create snap-on smiles very similarly. And you can create models for injection molding. So many cost-effective, easy, inexpensive ways to really elevate your level of care and, again, increase that precision. It decreases treatment times, it increases communication between everybody, and it's super duper efficient. You don't have to do this yourself. You can easily teach an assistant how to click a couple buttons, and there's resources for it, like the Mod Institute. So we don't have to wait for turnaround time from the lab. It's just such a powerful tool at our disposal. And then the third case that I'm going to talk about is printing indirect restorations. So 3D printed restorations with Flexera Smile Ultra. Again, that's the tooth colored material that is FDA approved for final restorations. Also, as of January of 2023, the way that the CDT codes are changing, this is a material that can be billed out as porcelain as of January of 2023. So Flexera Smile can be used for crowns, for onlays, inlays, veneers, adhesion bridges, you name it, you got it. So that restorative workflow, again, you're going to scan with the Emerald S, design in Plaid CAD Premium, print in Flexera, and bond that in. So why use a printed restoration over a milled restoration? Because research is telling us that there's higher accuracy, fewer marginal discrepancies, which makes sense, right? This is something that is additive, where it's not subtractive. So there's 43% greater marginal fit with that 385 nanometer, which again is a feature of the Einstein that in my mind makes it the best printer, and one of the reasons why I've kind of gone through various printers to get there versus that 405 nanometer. So it's a more intimate fit. And this is just kind of illustrating that. So we don't have the limitations of the burrs of a mill. We're able to really get a pristine marginal fit with a printed restoration. So with Flexera, you can print 112 crowns at one time on the build plate in 28 minutes. If you're printing less crowns, you can print them even quicker on the Einstein. You can print 800 crowns with one bottle of Flexera. And so your cost per crown is 69 cents. The color stability, this is showing the Flexera base material, and you can see that it's very color stable. There's a lot of tips and techniques to help with color stability as well, like painting in the uncured resin like I showed and curing that and locking that in. With respect to wear and strength, Flexera is the strongest 3D printed material compared to other competitors, and it's way stronger than a direct resin material like Filtek Supreme, which is a fantastic composite. But a 3D printed resin is always going to be stronger than something that we're curing in the mouth because we have a higher degree of polymerization in a 3D printed indirect resin versus a direct resin. So again, this is what that setup screen looks like. Within that screen, you can select an anatomic crown. We can make a pontic, inlays, onlays, veneers, anything and everything is possible in here. So the photo on the left is from Dr. Renee because he is a beautiful photographer and I just love this photo. So this is showing what a 3D printed onlay looks like, and this is customized with Ivoclar stains. So it's really precise. We have a great marginal fit, but not only that, we have a better ability to adapt our embrasures and our contacts and make things as cleansable as can be when we're doing things indirectly versus directly in the mouth, which I think is also a really great advantage. And then this little video on the right is actually from the veneer class at Mod, which shows how we can custom stain them. And then we actually had a live patient case where we delivered custom Flexera veneers. So you can see this patient had polychromatic teeth, and just the same way that you would deliver a porcelain veneer, you can bond in the custom veneers and color correct all of that. So that whole process takes minutes and costs penny on the dollars or cents on the dollar versus having to sit there and layer in by hand and do this arduous process with direct composite on all of these teeth. And it's much more precise and aesthetic to do it that way. So to bond this stuff on, it's the same way you bond anything else on. So we're air braiding, we're using universal bond, and we're using resin cement. And it's really powerful. We have data that shows that that creates a really great bond when we do it that way. So these things are absolutely beautiful. You can design them however you want to design them. You can put in surface texture. You can, custom stain them to create all sorts of, various colors, color changes, and really make them beautiful. So again, lots of endless potential here. So with this type of affordability for a permanent restoration, it totally elevates the standard of care to what we can provide for preserving teeth that maybe we wouldn't have told patients to hold on to and to invest money into, right? We're able to conserve enamel. We're able to hold on to teeth. It's really great for younger people that have fluorosis and things where you don't want to put them in ceramic and you want to use a resin conservative option, but you want something that's long lasting and going to be really beautiful. So it enables us to feel confident and comfortable recommending treatment that would normally otherwise be really expensive and maybe out of reach for people, and making that really possible. It's a really great workflow as well for when you're doing multiple units and quadrant dentistry, or in my case, I do sedation dentistry. So if I have a patient sedated and we're doing, all these fillings on all of these teeth, I can print them all at the same time. I can control my contacts. I control my embrasures. I can control the anatomy. I can make sure that they're perfect and bond them all in. And that is so much more time saving than sitting there doing multiple class 2 restorations that just turn out okay. It also gives us the ability to delegate more dentistry to our assistants so we can spend our time being more productive. So again, so much of this is assistant driven, right? The assistants can design it. The assistants can print it and wash it and cure it. So that is, again, a really great way to get a effective return on the investment. And then 3D printed restorations, there's even arguments and research that they may be the ideal restoration for dental implants which don't have a PDL, because the 3D printed restoration acts like a shock absorber, which makes a lot of sense, right? If we don't have a PDL to support that implant, we don't want the mode of failure to be the implant and to be the bone around it, right? We want the restoration to be able to take that shock. And something like hybrid and nano ceramic can be really powerful for that. So again, cost-effective, quick, easy materials that increase precision, decrease treatment times, and allow us to produce really high-quality dentistry for people that need it. So this is showing in that PlaidCAD Premium software, designing those crowns on abutments. So what's the takeaway here? How do you get started? There's 3 key things that we need, right? We need our intraoral scanner, our design software, and our printer. And with the printer comes really special resin that is FDA approved and quick and easy to do these things. So for me, that's Flexera. And implementing, there's a lot of tools in there. So Planmeca makes sure that any technology that you have, that you're set up for success. So they have trainers that come into your office to demonstrate things. They have an Elements course where they fly you to Chicago and you're there for 2 days in the classroom. They have various coaching and webinars. Again, the Mon Institute, I can't speak to that enough, how fantastic that type of training is. And then believe it or not, one of the absolute best resources for this stuff is Facebook. So there's 2 groups I highly recommend you join. One is Planmeca Clinical Hub, and the other one is 3D Printing and Dentistry. And both of those groups are really fantastic resources where clinicians will post little how-to videos, or if people have questions, you post those and other people will answer. It's a really awesome collaborative community of people that come together to just help one another succeed with this stuff. It's here, it's been around, but it's also so new and we can innovate. One of the hot topics like a month ago that everyone was posting about is 3D printing lingual wires, right? Lingual bars and bonding those in. And so everybody was coming up with their jigs to make sure it's seated right and how to do that. And so it's really such an exciting time to get involved with this stuff. And then this is a little video about mine. So,
congratulations on your first step of becoming a master of digital dentistry. You represent an elite group of clinicians that have decided to adopt Planmeca technology into their practice to become more digital. Here at the Mon Institute, we've designed a 3-track curriculum to be able to take you from being relatively new to digital dentistry to a true master. We have the 3D printing track, the Master of Occlusion track, and the Master of Design track. These 3 tracks represent the pinnacle of what it would take to truly implement digital dentistry in your practice. We welcome you here in Charleston, where we've developed a special curriculum for Planmeca users. Our unintimidating instruction is designed for the Monday after. We've developed unique tracks that will take you comprehensively through digital dentistry education, from a beginner to a true expert. I can't wait to welcome you here in Charleston.
So again, MOD is closely affiliated with Planmeca, but it is agnostic in that whatever scanner, mill, and printer that you have, they will teach you how to use it. So digital dentistry benefits, of course, it lowers our overhead cost, shortens our turnaround times, improves our staff retention and job satisfaction. When your assistants start integrating these workflows, that increases their value and wanting to be at your office and wanting to stay at your office, right? It's so fun. They don't want to go elsewhere, and they fight over who gets to design the next partial or who gets to stain the next crown. It allows us to better control our patient outcomes. You know, if you can quickly and cost effectively create a wax up for every case that you do, right? What cases would you start choosing to do wax ups for? It increases our communication and case acceptance between patients. We can more quickly and easily and cost effectively illustrate what we want to do and what services we can offer and how we can offer that. It also attracts patients who value this stuff, right? It attracts patients who want a personalized experience and quality care and see the value in integrating this type of technology. It creates a better physical and emotional experience for patients, and it improves documentation and insurance reimbursement when we have these scans and we have all this data that we can provide. So do you have to be digital to be great? Of course not. But what digital technology does is it really allows us to consistently perform at our best for people. So thank you so much for tuning in. My contact information is here, and I'm happy to answer any questions from anybody that has them. Feel free to reach out to me. I can't express how grateful I am for people that have mentored me and shown me the path and how to do all this. And I'm certainly always here to try and pay that forward, because once you start integrating this stuff, it really is so exciting and it's so transformative for you, your team, and your patients. So thank you so much for spending some of your Tuesday evening with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. As mentioned, at this time, we're going to open up the live Q&A session for the webinar. If you have a question, please type it in the box labeled "Have a question" on the right side of your screen. So we have a question. Does the Planmeca digital workflow let us integrate other scanners?
So it does, and that's what's really cool about having an open system. So everything that Planmeca does and makes, it is open, meaning that it's not a linear workflow. You can take other DICOM files or other STLs from other scanners and integrate that in. So the difference between why it's advantageous to have the Planmeca scanner is it just skips a couple steps, right? So I don't have to hit, export and import, right? I just click right over and it's there for me. And the other nice advantage of that is it's set up for their equipment. So if I'm milling something on one of their mills, all of that information that it needs to know on the parameters of, how to really do that and effectively do that are already built in. But that's not to say that, again, it can't work with a different mill. You just have to maybe tweak some parameters on how you want things to fit.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
If anyone else has any questions, please type it in the box labeled "Have a question" on the right side of your screen. So we have a new question. How much has going digital effectively reduced your overhead, like a ballpark percentage?
So keep in mind, right, there's various levels of being digital. So I jumped in the deep end, both feet, and just started swimming. So we keep all of our design services. We have every mill, every printer under the sun. There's very little that we're coordinating with a lab at this point. However, you don't have to be a crazy person and do that day one either, right? So you can also take baby steps where some people will maybe start with the printer and outsource some of the design work, or maybe do some of the basic stuff and outsource some of the more complex stuff. So, the answer is very dependent on what exactly I think it is that, what sort of level you enter into. For us, I essentially have no lab bill at this point, right? And a lot of these costs are really fixed. So the printer and the mills, the only ongoing cost that I have is resin. And again, I don't pay a lab tech to come in. I don't have a, extra time outside of clinic time to do this because we've really streamlined it. So nearly, close to 100%, right? I don't have a lab bill at this point, and my overhead for it is very minimal.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question, how much has case acceptance improved since implementation?
So I would say when it comes to cosmetic cases and implant cases, digital dentistry has been really transformative for that. When you can show somebody, so we used to use, and I would rely more so heavily on a picture type of software where, I would take the 2D picture and then I would overlay the silhouettes of what their teeth could look like, and I would use that as a talking point. And it was, I think, really a really effective way of doing it. But nothing is as powerful as when you actually print out a wax up and make a stent off of that and put Bisacryl in that. Or if you print out the Flexera mock-up and put that in somebody's mouth. I've even had patients like laugh and remark, at what a great technique that is and how crazy it is to see that and how, people just are really impressed by that. I would say from a case acceptance standpoint, of course it's increased our case acceptance, but where I find it to actually be the most helpful is more so in, again, communicating number of units or communicating why we might need to address the pink aesthetics before the white aesthetics. Because I find when I just sort of explain that or show that on a 2D image, I think people sometimes have a hard time conceptualizing that, even on a picture stuff, in their face. But when you actually show them what it means to fill out the buccal corridors more, or to, alter the gingival margin and why that makes it a little bit more beautiful to do maybe a gingivectomy or crown lengthening before, when they actually see it in their face, nobody says no to that. So I think that that's been really powerful. And I would say the other thing too, from a case acceptance standpoint, is it's really, I really almost treatment plan differently now also. There are cases or patients who are maybe really young or really old where I'm holding on to more tooth structure than I would have, right? Because when I make the recommendation to invest in an implant or a crown or something like that, I want to make sure that it's something that's going to really be long lasting for a patient. And with being able to kind of lower the cost of what that is for somebody, a tooth that maybe has more of a guarded or questionable prognosis on an older person, for example, I'm going to hold on to that rather than try and, replace that or edentulate someone. So I would say that that's also something that's been really helpful with respect to treatment planning and case acceptance as well, is just having another tool that I didn't have before, something that's in between a direct resin, but less expensive than a porcelain onlay or a porcelain crown or veneer.
Great, thank you. Our next question, can I use Formlab printer with Planmeca's Plan CAD Premium?
So Plaid CAD, I'm less familiar with Formlab printer, so I would say double check how that workflow is. But again, Plaid CAD Premium is pretty agnostic. So what you're going to produce from that is an STL. So as long as Formlab's the nesting software, you can input any STL into it, which I would assume that you can, because I don't think they have a proprietary design software, then you would be able to print that STL on any printer. So although Planmeca and Desktop Health have a really synergistic relationship and work really well together, they're still two separate companies. So it's not a closed system where you can only use those. And Plaid CAD Premium will generate an STL. So as long as you have the capability of nesting any STL, you can print it.
Awesome, thank you. All right, it looks like we covered everything tonight and there are no more additional questions at this moment. please feel free to email us at webinars@henryschein.com if you have any questions come up, and we will get those answered for you. We did record tonight's webinar, and we'll be emailing out the recording sometime in the next week. Thank you again so much for this wonderful presentation, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We would appreciate your feedback via our survey that will pop up on your screen shortly. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars.